Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion on Formalizing Digital Financial Services Association's Lessons from Africa. I am Carlo Guicheri from UNCDF, and it's my privilege to be your moderator for what I'm sure will be a very insightful session. Today, we are joined by a distinguished panel of experts, including Mr. Andualem Hailu from the newly formed Ethiopia Digital Financial Services Providers Associations, Mr. William Kaunda from the Association of Digital Financial Services in Malawi, Mr. Martin Awaga from the Ghana Fintech and Payments Association, as well as Ms. Sarah Corley from the Alliance of Digital Finance Associations. I am very excited and thankful you could all join us today and to learn a little bit from your collective knowledge and experiences in this topic. This webinar is organized by UNCDF's Digital Financial Services for Resilience program, which is supported by the European Union and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. The DFS for RAS program, as it's known, has been working with groups in Ethiopia and Malawi in their journey to become a formal association in the hopes of contributing to the digital economy and financial inclusion in these regions. And our focus today is to dive into the formation, the transition journey, and the pivotal role these associations play in the digital financial landscape. We hope to explore the challenges they face, some of the successes they've achieved, and the lessons that they learned throughout this journey. And we also hope to highlight the importance that these associations can play in fostering collaboration, influencing policy, promoting sustainable growth within the DFS sector. We really want to encourage you as the audience to actively participate, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we'll try our best to get to as many of them in the short hour that we have together. But before we dive into our conversation, I thought I'll take a moment to invite our panel members to really briefly introduce themselves. So perhaps starting with you, Mr. Hailu, if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself. Mr. Hailu?
Thank you so much, Carlo. Thank you again. How are you? Good afternoon, good morning, all. My name is Andualem Hailu. I am from Ethiopia. Currently, I'm working in one of the private banks in a capacity of Deputy CEO for Strategy and Technology. And parallelly, I'm a chairman of the board of directors for the newly established Digital Financial Service Providers Association of Ethiopia. I have been working in the financial sector for the last 25 years in the central bank and in commercial banks, and of course shortly in insurance. I can say I have been in the full all-rounded parts of the financial sector. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hailu. And next, Mr. Kaunda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Carlo, and thank you all for joining today's session. My name is William Kaunda. I work for a commercial bank in Malawi. My role in the commercial bank is I head the Digital Financial Services Division, but I've played quite a number of roles within the ecosystem. Well before what we are now saying digital financial services, I participated in a number of integration projects, one of which was to do our national switch. So from inception to our switch running as we know it today, I was part of it, and quite a key role that I was having in that business. I've been in the banking sector for the past 28 years. And still counting. So I find this pretty fulfilling.
Wonderful.
That now, as the financial services provider, we are almost there in finalizing our association, the registration of our association. Come a few weeks or a few months from now, we'll have a full-fledged association, which I think we'll be sharing insights in this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Awaga, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Carlo. My name is Martin Kwame Awaga, and I'm the president of the Ghana Fintech and Payments Association and in other capacities as well, where I serve in Ghana as the chief of staff of a fintech company called PayAngel, which is predominantly currently in the remittance space. So it's interesting to be here, and then I'm eager and excited to share my knowledge on how we can formalize digital financial or fintech associations and how this has been able, or the case studies that we have seen and the things that we have learned, the challenges that we have faced in Ghana and across other, ecosystems where I have an oversight body with, because I also work with the African FinTech Network. So thank you for having me, and then hoping to engage with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, last but not least, Ms. Corley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks so much, Carla, and thank you for having me here. And it's wonderful to be part of this panel and to see so many participants joining. My name is Sarah Cooley. I am the founder and CEO of the Alliance of Digital Finance Associations. It's a long one, so we tend to shorten to Alliance DFA. Otherwise, I end up talking a lot with those words. Alliance DFA establishes, strengthens, and represents country-based digital finance and fintech associations from across the globe. The idea is that these associations will be driving local improvements to digital financial services and making sure that they are inclusive, enable resilience, and economic growth. Our role is to convene the members, support and catalyze their actions, and be the global voice of the profession. We kind of act as a single point of contact, both between our members globally, but also to partner organizations, such as UNCDF, that might want to work with any of our members. So we sort of, someone came up with a term, the aggregator of digital finance and fintech associations, and I quite like that. So I'm gonna steal it and use it.
Wonderful, Sarah. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank you all for taking your time to participate. We're really lucky to get such a rich knowledge pool to talk to today. I guess let's get started then, perhaps starting with you, Mr. Hailu. I was wondering if you could walk us briefly through the formation and transition process of Ethiopia's DFS Providers Association. And if you could tell us a little bit, what were some of the challenges you encountered and some of the key achievements and successes that you feel we've achieved so far?
Thank you again, Carlo. In fact, this issue is a very critical part of this session, I can understand, because in my view, there are a lot of things could be learned from our journey toward the formation of the Ethiopian Digital Financial Service Providers Association. Before that, thanks to the support of the UN Capacity Development Fund, our journey was it was, even if there are a lot of challenge and successes, it was happened with the support of the UNCDF, I can say. For the last 1 year before the formation, 1 year and 3 months, it's like that, there was a working group established from different sectors of the ecosystem, from fintechs, from commercial banks, from insurance. So from each sector, from each participant, we were trying to establish this working group and try to coil up a common goal and a common vision towards achieving at least we had a plan for and of course not only a plan but also milestones to achieve. And of course the last milestone was to establish an association that can fully stand alone and can execute the objective of the the working group. So towards working groups functioning, the first challenge was to create the unified vision. Usually the stakeholders are trying to function separately, like banks, fintechs, and of course insurance. All of them, they do have their own function, but there is one element they can share, and they can work together. But previously, that was not the case on the ground. So that it was hard enough to collect all of them and to convince them to work, and buying their thoughts, ideas, and support and passion, and moving towards achieving the common goal. So that was the most challenging part. In order to do that, there were mixers. So at least monthly, there were mixers. So each one, either the banks or fintechs or insurance companies, will take up the lead to organize that mixer. So we'll collect there and discuss on some topical issues. So that was a good milestone. And then there was a networking quarterly. We had some networking sessions. That networking session also was a very, very important session to bring all the stakeholders together. And finally, we had a big session so that we could able to establish our own association, which is a very big milestone in our journey. So that working for other colleagues from African countries or any other part of the world, our journey can give you a lesson that the working group, which was there for the last 1 year, was a good cornerstone for the establishment of our association. And of course, our association is now in a better position to function and of course to make some influence, to advocate, and collectively act towards achieving a good result in the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hailu, and congratulations again for achieving the milestone of really formalizing the working from a working group to an association, which I know was quite the achievement to get to that point. Perhaps going next to you, Mr. Kaunda, you mentioned that you are almost there in terms of formalizing and becoming an official association. And I am sure it has been quite a challenging process. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this process and how has it been, and how did you guys go about forming this association or going about establishing an association, some of the challenges and successes that you've faced along the way?
Thank you once again, and congratulations to my colleague in Ethiopia for making it. We are just behind you. But our journey started some time ago, longer perhaps than our colleagues in Ethiopia, but we started in 2011. We started as a mobile money coordinating group, which then evolved into a digital financial services working group. So as the name is suggesting, you can see that at first it was just mobile money. So the grouping was more of mobile money operators. And then when you said who was funding at that point, noticed that there was need to broaden the scope. That's when banks and other providers were brought in. And therefore the mobile money working group name wouldn't suffice. Hence the change to Digital Financial Services Coordinating Group. So from 2011 to 2018, we were working as a working group. Then in 2018, we decided that no, we need to move. We can't effectively contribute to policy. We couldn't effectively contribute to development of regulation and others. Then we decided that we have to move towards registering ourselves as an association. The initial steps were taken with the support of UNCDF, but we didn't conclude the process, and that's one of the key learning points that we learned. We were relying much on the support we are getting from UNCDF. So when that phase of the support was not available, we couldn't proceed. Even up to now, we have the support from UNCDF, but our approach is now different because we are saying, let this association be industry-led instead of having support from our partners. Yes, we want support from our partners, but let us as an industry on our own push this thing. So in 2022, we revived the registration process. We are now at the very last end where we are expecting a signature of the authority, and then we will be a fully fledged registered association. So our journey has been mixed, as I have indicated. We started, we stopped, we learned lessons, but now we are really at the end of that milestone. And we are all clear, come next year, we will be a different association, running a different objective and completely enjoying our association with all of you worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hilda. And we look forward to the date that this papers are finally signed, and we look forward to working as well with the association next year. As you said, you embark on your new journey as a formal association. Now, Mr. Alga, the association in Ghana, the Ghana Fintech and Payments Association, is at a different stage. Certainly, you guys have been established for a little longer. So I would love to hear from you how formal associations like the Ghana Fintech Payment Associations play a critical role in influencing policy and regulation. If you could tell us how you have successfully engaged with regulators in Ghana to drive policy development and advocate for advancing financial inclusion goals in Ghana.
Okay, thank you, Carlo, for that question. It's interesting to be hearing the different perspectives and processes through which some of the institutions were formalized across these other countries. But Ghana is somewhat a different or a peculiar case because, you know, government in Ghana made it a policy narrative or a policy was initiated in 2018, 2019, which actually led to the formation of the association. Now, what are these policies that I'm talking about, one may ask? We have the Ghana Cashlight Roadmap. Then we also had the Digital Financial Services Policy. And then we have one last one, which was the National Financial Inclusion Development Strategy, NFIDS. So all these three policies were all geared towards driving Ghana into a cashlight economy, or pushing us into the cashlight agenda. But of particular importance in those three policies was the cashlight roadmap, which indicated step-by-step processes of what needed to be done to achieve this process. And in that particular policy was the need for the industry to formalize an association which would run its affairs. In Ghana, for instance, we have the Ghana Association of Banks, which is mandated, which basically it's also an NGO, but has all the commercial or traditional banks underneath them. And they work with the central bank, which is the Bank of Ghana, to work in formulating policies, frameworks, and regulatory provisions which would guide the industry. Then we also have GAMFIN, Ghana Association of Microfinance Institutions Network, which also, is another association formalized to look at how they can provide the best practices, industry practices for the savings and loans and the microfinance industry. So from 2018, when we realized that, fintech was becoming something that was going to become very instrumental in the way, we transact or the financial sector plays. that policy was enacted, and it was indicated that there was a need for that to happen. So we then saw an engagement of all the major stakeholders or players in the fintech industry to formalize an association, which thankfully happened in the year 2019. Funny story, I was not even in the country when that happened. So, in 2020, when I came back to Ghana, after I spent some few years outside the country, I was directed to come and lead the association. So thankfully, we engaged with the regulators, we engaged with industry players, and through that process, there was a whole lot of learnings. What was our mandate going to be? What do we seek to achieve? How are we going to go about it? Who are our competitors? Of course, and obviously, the Ghana Association of Banks, and then the the Microfinance Institutions Network were our more like competitors. But for me, I see them more of collaborators and partners, but rather than competitors. What did we do? We decided I went ahead to officially formalize the discussions with them to make sure that instead of becoming very competitive with this other industries, which is the banks and microfinance, why don't an association as fintechs, which plays a very catalytic role in providing digital channels for all these institutions to, or the digital rails for which all these institutions will work on or operate. Why don't I bring them on board instead of being very competitive? Let's focus on collaborations. Let's focus on building strong partnerships, and that was what gave us, a winning edge, and be able to have, the understanding or listening ear of the regulator. So through that, we're able to work with the regulator in introducing the regulatory sandbox, introducing some policies or working with the regulator to even get cryptocurrency firms to, play within that environment. So these are the things that we have done and we continue to do. And as the discussion goes on, we would tell you more of how we continue to play in this space and work in this place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amaga. And I commend you for your initiative to foster this collaboration and cooperation and trying to present sort of a unified voice to the regulators, which is something I think that is really commendable. Now, Ms. Corley, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the Alliance and its role and how you help this nascent associations that are just starting their journey. How do you help them become established, and in what sort of services and benefits can you provide as members of the Alliance?
Great, thanks, Carlo, for the question. And I just want to concur with what Martin said there about the importance of the unified voice. Actually, that's one of the things that we state in ours, because, there's plenty of work to be done. It doesn't matter necessarily who is leading it, but working together collaboratively on it, I think, is really key. So what do we do at the Alliance? Well, we have a number of events and activities that bring our members together. So either informally through things like monthly membership meetings, we do case studies that showcase what our members have achieved to act as inspiration for others. We have a Journey to Formation and Impact series, a webinar series where we get other more successful established associations to come along and present their journeys. Martin, I'm going to be inviting you to that one for the first one in Q1 next year. I think that'll be wonderful. And one thing I really want to work on a lot next year is trying to put together some sort of guidance, really some documents around, what are the different structures that associations can take, because some use the name fintech, some use the name digital finance. Does it matter? Not really. It's about your vision and mission. I think that's more important. But sort of trying to understand the different models, because sometimes regulators have called for the associations to be formed so that they can hear the voice of the industry, that unified voice. Others have started more grassroots up with fintech associations gathering together and thinking we need our voice to be heard. And obviously it depends on your country. So Ghana has an incredibly thriving ecosystem when it comes to fintech. So there's not a surprise there's a fintech association there. Other countries have less a thriving fintech ecosystem, and that might impact what their association might look like or structure like. So I think there's a really interesting piece of work to be unpicked that I'm really excited that the Alliance will be doing next year on options for structuring, running and forming associations, which would be useful. We also launched this year an accelerator program where we took 9 of our members. So I've been involved in formation of 15 of our members. So sort of 75% of our membership has been formed with support from myself and the Alliance over the last 5 years. And so helping kind of formalize that support into the accelerator program. We have 6 modules that cover things like your vision and mission, your purpose, mapping the industry to see who your potential partners, collaborators, competition, whatever you want to sort of use as the word, but seeing what they're doing and trying to find a niche that is different and unique for yourself. We have modules that cover things like how to operate, like sort of in terms of understanding, the need for financial, HR type procedures, governance, board. But I think importantly as well, thinking about things like your business model. These associations cannot run for free. They often start up that way, but how are you going to generate revenue through things like membership fees, perhaps sort of sponsorship, donor grants, projects that you can work on, what that long-term sustainability is, because I think that's really important. I have sadly seen too many associations launch and 6 months later, nothing much is happening. And so I think, our accelerator program is there to try and support associations to really sort of think long-term sustainable, what is our actions going to be and what impact we're going to make, what can we do that no one else is maybe doing, and how can we add value both to our members but the ecosystem and industry around us, because that value add will then create the potential for future revenue, sponsorship, income that can continue to allow that association to function. So that's sort of a lot of what we're doing, but then really new, and I'm going to jump in and take the opportunity just to keep the microphone for a little bit longer, because I'm really excited by the fact that one of the really new things that we have just launched, in fact, I launched at Singapore FinTech Festival, is that we are having in 2024 an Associations Awards. This will enable us to recognize the impact that digital finance and fintech associations have made, for us to be able to sort of select a handful of associations, feature really, I think, in depth what impact that they've made, to showcase how important they are in the industry. And I think this is a really vital role of Alliance DFA to really sort of try and raise the profile of our members and these industry associations so that they can get the opportunity and the influence that they really need to make their impact. So I'm very excited to look forward to announcing more about that competition in early next year, and hopefully receiving applications from everyone listening and on this panel even too, and also potentially looking for partners for those awards. So please do reach out if any of that sounds really interesting. But I think that is a really key role that the Alliance can play for its members and for associations, is that kind of PR, marketing, credibility, demonstration of impact, and doing that on a global scale.
Thank you, Sarah. It is indeed really exciting to see all these different initiatives that you are leading at the Alliance, and I'm excited to hear more about these awards as they develop, and I'm sure we'll be in touch about it coming up in the future.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Now, going back to you, Mr. Haile, I was wondering if you could, I know obviously the association in Ethiopia is just getting started, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the role that the association plays in engaging with regulatory bodies to influence policy development, or at least the role you hope that this association will play in influencing policy development and regulation in Ethiopia and sort of contributing to financial inclusion advancement in Ethiopia, given that obviously you're just starting, but I'm sure there's a lot that is planned ahead.
Thank you, Carlo. As you said, it has been a while since our association is in the formation. I mean, since it's formed, but I can answer the question by just separating into 2 parts. One, while it was in a working group, that was the time, we have started to make some contribution towards, the policy dialogue. I can say during that time, the networking sessions, the mixers had a very good role in because it was it is a new practice, and of course for the central bank as well as the regulatory organs in the ecosystem, such kind of practice is not accustomed, I can say. So that when the working group was organizing some mixers or networking sessions, representative from the regulatory organ were invited, and they were given a chance to explain about the policy environment, the roadmap. Sometimes it is very crucial to have a clear understanding of the roadmap for both the fintechs or for the bank, microfinance, or the insurance. Whatever you mentioned in the ecosystem, we have to know the roadmap of the policymakers so that we can align with the strategy and the policy framework of the policy loop. So I think for that case, in that case, the sessions which were organized by the working group gave the chance to the regulatory organs to explain about their thoughts, their strategies, and of course their roadmap towards achieving the national strategy of the financial inclusion. There is a very big agenda of the country. There is the strategy, financial inclusion strategy and policy. So we could have been, we could achieve to make such kind of contribution towards that. And of course, after we established as an association, we are now crafting a plan and of course a strategy towards achieving our advocacy objective, or basically we have agenda of advocacy of the interest of the fintechs or the banks or the microfinance. All together, we have agenda to give to the regulatory organs. So we are now strategizing how to make it happen, and hopefully in the coming times we will have more advanced networking and advocacy sessions, and of course knowledge series, which we are now planning to conduct with the support of UNCDF, so that we will invite experiences from different parts of the country. By the way, I would like to use this opportunity to thank UNCDF for facilitating us a knowledge sharing visit to Ghana, and that's when we met Martin and other stakeholders. So we took a lot of lessons from the central bank and from the associations like the one which Martin is leading. So we want to adopt those things in the Ethiopian context. So hopefully in the coming years, we'll definitely have positive impact on creating the awareness and of course bringing the regulatory organs to the best interest of the members as well as the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Israel. And I am sure that there's a lot of promising things coming your way. It's exciting to hear of the plans that you have in place. Mr. Kaunda, sort of in the same line, obviously the association is still to be formed, but in a couple of weeks you'll be there, but there's been a long journey to get to where you are today. And I was wondering if you could talk about a little bit about the footprints in engaging with the regulators that you've experienced so far and to drive innovation and growth in Malawi. So I was wondering if you could talk about a little bit about your experience and the experience of the association in engaging with the regulators in trying to influence policy.
Thank you. And once again, just to echo what my colleague just said, though we are a working group, not fully registered, we were still working with government at different levels. But as an association, we think that we will make a good representation when we are formally recognized and legally recognized for that matter. This far, I'll just mention two key things we contributed. Malawi was developing the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard from 2022. It was just launched this year. A number of DFS members or the working group members played a very key role in that development. And we think that when you read the IDES report from Malawi, you can actually see from your expertise that indeed there were some contributions from the experts from DFS working group and therefore the DFS Association. And Malawi is also now at a stage where the Malawi Digital Economy Strategy is in draft form. And we are very excited by that because we are already, as a working group stroke or association to be, we are already doing a policy and regulation analysis. So we've got a team within our membership that has done this. We are almost done, and we'll be engaging government shortly to say these are the gaps. And therefore, as the digital economy strategy is being crafted, this is what is needed. So we see ourselves being a force that will shape the upcoming digital economy strategy. And therefore, all the other government-related activities that have to do with the providing of financial sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaunda, and I have no doubt that indeed together as a formalized association, you will be indeed a force to push for the interests of the associate members. Now, Mr. Awaga, I wanted to sort of touch base on something that Mr. Hairulu mentioned about this exchange visit that was organized where the members of the association in Ethiopia got a chance to come into Ghana. Now, I was wondering if you could share some insights on the importance of this learning visits and peer exchange to foster collaboration in knowledge sharing across the DFS ecosystem and some of the benefits and things that you see that can be learned across associations.
I mean, I think you can clearly see, the similar challenges are faced, in setting up and forming the associations. I mean, they're certainly sort of very common, around bringing together the industry, sort of creating that drive, how you're going to set up what your business model could be. And I think, that is where that collaboration can be, super important, not having to necessarily reinvent the wheel every time, because there are learnings that can be had across. But also, I think it's really interesting to see how you can, and quite rightly should be focused on projects that are within your geographical country. But I think it's also nice to see what others are doing, because it can give you that inspiration, but maybe also get involved with what they're doing. So enabling associations to think beyond just, their country, which I think, I say just, but, it's incredibly important, but to maybe also start to think, regionally, continentally, because, sort of if two or three associations are working on very similar challenges, issues, that can be a really, interesting concept for more associations to explore together. So that's what we're doing. For example, we have a cloud computing working group happening now, which is focused on Africa. Cloud computing regulations, and things like data localization and sovereignty do make it quite challenging to run, and yet we see when you can use cloud computing, sort of actually how much you can deliver and reach those who are at the moment financially excluded or not well included. So I think, sort of that's what's the really important thing, is bringing people together to try and find, what are you working on? What are the challenges that you're facing you plan to work on? And how can we put our voices together to create something that perhaps is bigger and larger and can, we can advocate and strengthen that voice, bringing that unified voice beyond just maybe one country. And I see that as being a really important role of connecting people together, but also the mentorship that you can have from one another, and also it's not easy running an association. There's a lot of people that you have to bring on board. There's a lot of people that, a lot of thinking that you have to do, a lot of strategy that you're having to do, and talking to people who have gone through exactly the same thing as you really helps sort of ease your mind, but also, keep that drive and focus going. And I think that's really what I would see the importance of having the alliance and that collaboration together is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. But maybe, Mr. Awaga, could you mention about the visit that they came to Ghana, and how did that come about, and what do you think are some of the benefits of such exchanges, in your opinion, in some of the lessons that Ghana can teach other associations as well?
Yeah. One of the things that I keep hearing, and even Sarah mentioning, is the fact that there's the need for strategy. Mm-hmm. So now, before you think of formalizing any association, notwithstanding the fact that running an association, like she rightfully pointed, is not an easy task, and it involves a lot of strength and hard work. One of the things that you have to ask yourselves before going on this journey is you have to actually determine the unique need for the ecosystem. What is that one identifying strategy that you think is important? And when you bring yourselves together and start an association, it would work well for you. Does it have to do with policies and regulation? Is that your unique need? You have to understand that. Is it investment? Is it advocating for digital finance infrastructure? Is it capacity building? So it's a lot. Now, one of the things that we have noticed at our association is that we prioritize knowledge sharing, capacity building, development of the professionals within our corporate organizations. So, for instance, when we hosted the association from Ethiopia, one of the things that we did mention to them was the need for them to be consistent. What are they supposed to be consistent with? They are supposed to be consistent with organizing regular workshops for members, particularly coming from their partners who are supposed, when you look at it, and fintech associations or digital finance associations are NGOs, and funding is a critical part or component of keeping it running. That's what turns the engines or keeps the wheels running. Otherwise, you would not be existent, or you would not be working. So one of the things that we have done, one of the things that we shared with them, was the need for them to have corporate memberships. Now, corporate memberships have to be particularly your core fintech companies or core digital financial service corporate members who can fund your project, who can pay yearly subscriptions to be able to run and even pay some of the staff who are on voluntary basis or freelancers working at the association. That's how we run. Additionally, you develop strategic partnerships, because funding is critical. In all these discussions, funding and grants are very, very important to the way we do our things. And without that, we would be null and void. So you also have to look at developing strategic partnerships, developing packages for strategic partners like MasterCard, Visa, MasterCard Foundation, a lot of these international development institutions, even the UNCDF, these are institutions that can support or provide some level of funding, support your businesses and the running of the association. So, like I was saying, we here prioritize knowledge sharing, workshops, seminars, training sessions. For instance, one of the things that we have done this year was to do a lot of capacity building initiatives, because we have also realized that one of the unique needs of our industry is, the fintech drive or the fintech narrative came to us abruptly, because of the whole COVID-19 issue. Now, prior to that, fintechs had always, or digital financial institutions have always been working or running behind the shadows of commercial banks. Now, having identified that, what did we do? We noticed that there was a huge gap in terms of talent, in terms of capacity of the persons we needed. So one of the things we did in 2021, 2022 was to send some of our members, individual members from each company to Cambridge for the Cambridge CFTE Financial Technology Education Program. And that's, built capacity, and we also thereafter had a lot of local training sessions. We brought in participants and experts from all across Africa and even the IMF. You see, so you have to, so the work is not easy. The task ahead is not easy. It involves a lot of collaborations, a lot of, interactions, a lot of engagement. And so, irrespective of all this capacity building, workshops, seminars, events we organize, we also do a lot in terms of organizing mixers. Now, the ecosystem is very agile, and it's not every techie person in the fintech space or everybody practicing in that industry who is able to interact better at workshops or seminars or events. Some just want, maybe a relaxed cocktail evening to talk about, whatever they are doing with their colleagues. So we have, one of the things that we have adopted at the association is we get our members on rotational basis to do what we call the fintech mix-up. So we've hosted a fintech mix-up for MFS Africa now on Afrique. We've hosted NALA, we've hosted ZPay, we've hosted FX Hoodie, and a lot more others that are in the process of being or coming on board for us to do activities on these projects with them. Now, this is precisely with the aim of, getting people to talk, in a relaxed atmosphere. Because, one of the things that I have seen or personally come to realize is the work is really, really tedious because you are running numbers, zeros and ones from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Now, you have to stay on your guard. You have to be very agile. You have to be an on-the-go thinking and resourceful person. So we do this, like Sarah also mentioned, we have been running an award scheme here for the Ghana FinTech industry called the Ghana FinTech Awards for the past going on 3 years. Why do we do that? Essentially, is to bring all the other spectrum of financial service providers in the industry, be it the commercial banks, the fintechs, the telcos, because in Ghana, the telcos are also part of the financial sector now. When it comes to Momo, the telcos or the other microfinance and savings and loans institutions to come and sit down and relax, over a cocktail or two to discuss issues, pertaining to the next year or the next fiscal year. So there's a whole lot of activities that we prioritize. And I think these are things that other ecosystems that want to leverage on building an association should consider training sessions, seminars, workshops, and capacity or knowledge sharing sessions with other members within the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. It's really exciting to hear of all these different initiatives. And indeed, I think there's a lot that the different associations can learn from a more sort of established association like the one in Ghana. Now, I'm mindful of the time, and I also do want to have a chance to ask some questions from the audience as well. But there's one point, Martin, that you brought up that I think it would be really interesting to hear from the two sort of more nascent associations. So maybe starting with you, Mr. Hailu, I was wondering if you could share with us about the sustainability plans and strategies that you have put in place to ensure that the Ethiopia's association grows and continues to be recognized as a strong voice and force within the ecosystem. So what are your sustainability plans that you're hoping to put in place?
Thank you, Carlos. We had a very interesting session, so I'm happy again to be here. By the way, our first sustainability strategy is to increase our membership base. And of course, we are a very good learners. As Martin said, we had a very, many of the things that he mentioned now, we took it as a lesson when we were there. So to have a very good membership base as a corporate or others is a very important and a crucial thing. So so we will work on expanding the membership base, and of course our networking sessions, and of course the basically the visibility that we want to create is very crucial. So our sustainability strategy basically focuses on this pillar of the creating clear visibility to stakeholders, so that they will have trust on the association, as well as they will align with our objective. So that's also another strategy. And of course, the advocacy programs. We have a lot of plans to conduct different types of advocacy sessions, these mixers, and of course, quarterly sessions. And a very important point that Martin mentioned previously, such kind of creating competition environment amongst the fintechs or any parts or stakeholders is a very important thing. So we will have a separate program for that. And of course, so far we have been a member of the African FinTech Network. And of course, hopefully we'll talk with Sarah, and we'll definitely be part of the alliance for the digital finance associations, which we believe that it will give us a leverage to have additional insights, additional outlooks. So definitely that's also part of our strategy. And of course, apart from that, we really want to work closely with the regulatory organ. That's also another lesson that we took from the Ghanaian experience. The Ghana Central Bank, when we visited the Ghana Central Bank, we could able to learn that the different associations take part in the different aspects of the central bank's policy development initiatives, so that the associations will not be parts after it is crafted or something. They will be part of the process starting from the initiation, and of course they will contribute their idea, so they can do something. And of course, ultimately, the policy environment will be conducive, and it can be workable. So that's also a very crucial thing that we want to create amongst the regulatory organs, so that we can have some stake on the policy development, and of course other regulatory functions. So these are the main issues that we want to achieve in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kaunda, would you mind briefly talking sort of in the same vein a little bit about your strategies towards achieving sustainability of your association?
Yes. What we did, or what we have done, we've started with the way we've structured our membership. So our membership of the association includes private sector. What we are looking at there is any private sector player that is in the digital financial services business has to be a member of this association. Then all the DFS practitioners have to be. We want also to start instituting the code of conduct for DFS practitioners, so that we are behaving the way we are expected to behave. Then we've got representatives from other associations. So the FinTech, the ICT Association, members from there, representatives from there. So the various presidents or chairmen of those associations are part of the DFS. Then we also have development partners. We have government ministries. and we've got the regulators that contribute to this. So you can see the way we've segmented our membership is we've included everyone that is supposed to play a role in the DFS association. So as an association, what we also therefore look at is that since we are all there that matter, what is it that we want to do? How do we sustain ourselves? So the first thing we are looking at is that we need to create a value. So that every member that is there, every representative that is there, from wherever they come from, they should see that unique value. So our unique value proposition should be such that they should be willing to join in and not willing to go away. So one of the things we do is in creating value is where we are engaging, regularly engaging. We are bringing in different programs, training programs, and others, so that we add value to all our members. In the same vein, as I've described, you will see that we are relying much on grants and others. So there will be, each member will be contributing something, and we've structured our fees in such a manner that they are sustainable, meaning that you have to you can contribute without really draining much of your pocket, but whatever you contribute is able to sustain the association going forward. We see this sustaining the association going forward in such a manner that even if a partner who is supporting us, who is UNCDF now, comes to an end of that support, we should be able to stand on our own feet. The other thing that I will mention last that we doing, and in order to sustain ourselves, is that we are putting in transparent and accountable governance structures, such that there should not be any doubt that whatever contributions that have come to the association have been used effectively. Otherwise, if we create doubts, then we're going to lose any contribution that we are going to have from our partners. So that governance structure of accountability, we are taking it pretty serious, even at this stage where we are not formally recognized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the importance of that as well, and it can be a tricky balance. Now, I'm mindful of the time, but I would love to get at least one question from the audience, and I saw one that I really liked, so hopefully you guys are able to stick around for just a little longer. But I was wondering if, I don't know, maybe if Pierre Berthelot could unmute himself and ask this question, because I think he posted a question on the Q&A section that I think is really important. So I don't know, Pierre, if you're still online with us, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and asking the question, and then I'd love to hear from the panelists their answers to this I think what it's a really critical and important question. Pierre, are you still with us?
Yes, thanks, Carlo. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to join in. And first of all, really many thanks to the panelists for this very enriching sharing of experience. I am from Business ACP, which is a structure that supports the joint ACP-EU Private Sector Development Platform and the OACPS Secretariat, and which basically is managing a portfolio of 600 million private sector development programs, of which this one is part. So we are really very happy to see how UNCDF is facilitating this exchange of experience among the membership of the OACPS, because the OACPS believes strongly in South-South cooperation and sharing of experience, and it's great to see this happening through this program. My question is the following, a really simple one. So how do these various associations, which you've been talking about today, are doing to ensure the inclusion of women stakeholders? Do you have specific strategies for this? And if so, what are the main features of these strategies to ensure inclusion of women in the associations? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pierre. Maybe Martin, we could start with you, since you're already a more established association. We start with you before moving on to the next panelist.
Yeah, thank you, Pierre, for that, enlightening. One of the things that digital finance or fintech seeks to achieve is financial inclusion. There's nowhere you hear digital finance or fintech or digital payments without, getting the end of the ball, which is the financial inclusion. And particularly the, demystifying the gender gap that currently exists. One of the things that we are doing now, we were talking about sustainability, and one of the assured ways of getting sustainable finance and financing or funding for the associations is the development of tangible and workable projects and programs. You understand? So one of the things that we are doing as a Ghana Fintech and Payment Association is the introduction of a project called the Women in Fintech Project. Now, what do we seek to achieve here? And now, just like the financial sector or the banking industry, you see a lot more male-dominated industry. You understand? Whereby about 30 to 20% of those participating in that industry are, females. So majority is male. So we are introducing now to be able to curb that or reduce that gap. We are saying that, with the evolving nature of technology and how finance is becoming more digital, we should not wait to be more advanced in this ecosystem before starting to talk about or bringing programs or projects tailored towards women inclusion. So we are starting now with the Women in Fintech project, where we want to include more women, create certain tailor-made courses or training programs for them, create the enabling environment for us to bring women who have already advanced professionally in this ecosystem or landscape to come and share their experiences, bring them together, get them training, get them the tools, the materials needed to be able to, compete or, be able to be onboarded into the industry. So this is some of the things that we are doing here. And this project is actually going to be launched in the first quarter of 2024. So kindly, be abreast with us, follow us, and then get to know more of the exciting things that we are about to, bring onto this ecosystem and, trying to just make sure that women have an active voice and active participation within the digital financial ecosystem or drive.
Thank you, Martin. And what about you, Mr. Hailu? Could you tell us a little bit about how you are hoping to bring in more women and ensuring inclusion of women stakeholders in the association?
Thank you, Carlo, and thank you, Perry, for raising this issue. The ultimate objective of our association is to have a considerable impact on the in the financial inclusion aspect or the targets of the country. And of course, we are definitely sure that women's financial inclusion is a very key issue in the country's the financial inclusion strategic pillars. So the first thing to do is to bring the agenda to our table, and of course it is really our agenda. And of course we as I mentioned earlier, we are now in the process of crafting our strategic plan as well as operational plan of the coming years. So we will definitely incorporate women's financial inclusion as a main focus area. And of course, to have this, basically, as I said, the first thing to do is bringing the agenda to our programs, and our programs are focusing on its advocacy or the mixers or the networking sessions. Usually they are thematic, so we bring those issues to our programs so that we can streamline and each stakeholders can take their parts from the agenda, and of course they will continue to implement it. But as Martin mentioned their experience, we have also a plan to have different projects on different areas. So one of the project areas we want to dwell on is the women's financial inclusion project. So this is how we are planning to tackle this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Harlow. And William, would you like to say the perspective from Malawi?
Yes, as I said earlier, we participated in the creation of the in the development of the IDES report, Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard report. In that report, it was very clear that there is a gap in women inclusivity, which is standing at 40% now. So from the working group where we are now, one of the members, the fintech membership, they've got the fintech association also, but they are represented. If you remember what I said about our structure and how our membership is structured. So the fintech took it upon themselves as part of what they're supposed to deliver to initiate an initiative which is called the She Codes. So they're supporting women that do coding. Now, just a few last weekend there was a big event where they were being recognized. So that's a motivation that already, as an association, we started influencing and showing which areas need to be focused on. Pretty much as we go into our full operation, most of our members will start, therefore, implementing various programs, looking at the gaps that were highlighted in the report, and therefore, one of the key elements will be how do we include each sector, youth, women, and others. So the report, our contribution to the report and the outcome of the report is giving us a clear timeline, a clear guideline as to what we need to do and where we need to focus in. Obviously, women is one of them, and as I've said, you can actually see that our member association has already started doing something. Thank you.
Thanks, William. And then maybe Sarah, to close this off, you have a lot of experience working with different associations. Have you seen any sort of lessons, like best approaches on bringing more women and increasing women participation in these associations?
So I think there's a number of projects and initiatives that we've seen the associations doing to bring more women in. Some have done mentoring programs, like Martin's sort of similar programs that Martin was sort of doing as well, Women in Fintech, and even working with schools, universities to try and sort of socialize the concept of moving into kind of more technical finance spaces. But I think what we're doing at the Alliance and is sort of kind of connected to that, right? So what we've begun to realize in many of the associations that we formed, and we've played a role in forming, bringing up the gender and trying to have a board at the association itself that has gender diversity and representation has been really key. So the majority of our initial founding members that formed Alliance DFA have either a woman as the chair or president or vice chair or vice president. And I think that sets an important, tone that shows the importance of, sort of women's, inclusion, empowerment and equity. We're also working on why some people, why is it? I mean, I think there's a different percentage of men, women in the field of digital finance fintech, but I also feel that women can get to a certain point and then moving into a role where they are on a board, there are more barriers and more issues, especially when you ask, for example, for significant experience on previous boards. A lot of women get discounted and knocked and I cannot continue with their application forward. So I'm really keen. I can see that our country members are doing amazing jobs at sort of increasing the numbers of women coming through into the profession. I think our role at the Alliance might be to look at more towards the top and what are the barriers and how can we unlock some of those barriers that help women get onto the board, running associations, and being in more significant senior roles. And anybody, Pierre or anyone out there that's loved to collaborate with us on this and sort of unpick this challenge and problem and try and find some solutions to move it forward, I'd love to be able to work with you next year.
Thank you so much, Sarah. No, everyone, I'm mindful of the time, and unfortunately, we are already a little bit over, and I don't want to keep our panelists and our guests any longer than we can. But this has been a really wonderful conversation. We have a lot more questions on the Q&A what we're going to do is we're going to gather these questions and we're going to ask our panelists to answer them. And when we are sending the recording of this session to all of the participants, we'll make sure to include the answer of the questions as well. And also, Mr. Willy Kaunda had a slide that he prepared that we can also include in the email, the follow-up email that we'll send to all of the participants. But I just wanted to take a moment before we wrap things up to just thank each and every single one of you, for the panelists, for taking their time and sharing their knowledge and experience in this really important topic. And it's been really a pleasure to talk with you and spend a little bit of time with you trying to understand all these exciting initiatives that you are taking and that you're leading in your country. So thank you all once again for participating. And yeah, thank you all for those who attended the session as well. Thank you so much.
And this is me inviting Sarah to the launch of the Women in FinTech project in Ghana. Thank you.
I'd be delighted. We'll connect, Martin.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Collaboration. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.